Greetings, everyone. This is 6-Path Weeb. Today's fanfic topic explores an intriguing scenario. What if Naruto married Sasuke? Disclaimer: the content on this channel is intended solely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not claim ownership of any anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's begin. Sasuke strode down the corridor with a deliberate pace, his footsteps echoing in the silence. A few maids bowed respectfully as he passed, but he barely acknowledged them, offering only a brief nod before continuing toward the most secluded room at the end of the hall. As he entered the bedroom, he cast a cursory glance around, unimpressed by what he saw. The room was dim, the curtains drawn, and his pink-haired wife lay napping, seemingly indifferent to the turmoil seething within him. Sasuke's lip curled in disdain at the sight. The storm raging inside him went unnoticed by this woman, who appeared to care for nothing. Taking a deep breath, Sasuke made his way to the bathroom, his gaze sharp and calculating. There was nothing remarkable at first glance, but he knew better. He had been through this before and understood what to look for. Kneeling beside the small trash can, he lifted the lid, his nose wrinkling in disgust. The can was filled with discarded tissues, makeup remnants, and various other items he had no interest in identifying. He hesitated before reaching for the papers, the revulsion too strong to overcome. Instead, he kicked the trash can over, spilling its contents across the floor. The evidence he sought rolled out last, carefully concealed at the bottom. Sasuke's eyes darkened as he spotted the bloodied pads. Taking a moment to steady his breathing, he marched back into the bedroom. With a swift movement, he flicked on the light switch, flooding the room with harsh light. Sakura remained unperturbed, still sleeping soundly. "Wake up," Sasuke snapped, striding over to the bed and yanking the covers off her body. Sakura flinched awake, blinking as she hastily adjusted her yukata, pulling it tighter around her. "What's wrong, Sasuke-kun?" she asked groggily, her voice laced with concern. "You know that pregnancy makes me tired." Sasuke's anger flared, pushing him to the brink. "Stop lying," he spat, his voice low and dangerous. Sakura's eyes widened momentarily, but she quickly forced a smile. "No, it's true this time. You're on your period," Sasuke interrupted, his tone cold as he leaned into her personal space. Sakura gasped, her heart racing as she realized her secret had been uncovered. I. "Enough," Sasuke growled. "We've been married for 10 years, and you still haven't given me a child." Tears welled up in Sakura's eyes as she looked down, her voice trembling. "I want to, Sasuke-kun. There's nothing I desire more. She looked up, meeting his stormy gaze. "Maybe we should try harder, or see another doctor." Sasuke raised a hand, but stopped himself just before it struck her. Instead, he ran a shaky hand through his raven hair, struggling to control his rage. Sakura swallowed hard, relief washing over her that he had chosen not to hit her, this time. "You want to see another doctor?" Sasuke asked incredulously. "Do you want to humiliate me further? To bring more shame upon me than I already endure?" His voice was harsh, filled with bitterness. "That Hyuga already has 2 children, and people mock me, calling me fruitless, barren. Even the children ridicule me." Sakura's tears flowed freely, her voice barely a whisper. "What should I do? I'm so sorry, Sasuke-kun." "Just stay out of my sight," Sasuke muttered, tugging at his hair in frustration. "Be invisible, or I won't be responsible for what I might do." Nodding quickly, Sakura bit her lip, her heart aching with fear and sorrow. Without another glance at his tearful wife, Sasuke stormed out of the room, his footsteps quick and determined. He couldn't fathom how his life had come to this. As a child, he had never imagined the hell his future would hold. Born into Konoha's most prestigious clan, the Uchiha, Sasuke had been raised with the belief that they were the elite, descendants of the gods of shinobi, natural-born warriors, strong and intelligent beyond compare. Their pride and power had always set them apart from others. Sasuke was born as the second son of the Lord of the Uchiha. His life was set out even before he was born. He would grow up to be a strong shinobi to serve his clan, get married with a girl within his clan to keep their line and sire sons to serve the Uchiha. It was simple. Sasuke was proud of it. He never thought of a different lifestyle, their elders decided their fate and Sasuke was perfectly okay with that. But everything started changing after his brother fell ill. Itachi was the pride of the Uchiha clan. A man and a shinobi like him only could be found within the Uchiha, and even then, nobody came close to him. He was to take over their father, Fugaku, when he decided to step down and lead the Uchiha. But nobody could see an illness taking him down. He was alive and Sasuke was thankful for that. But he was constantly in bed and monitored every day. None of the medics seemed to find the cause of his illness, so they were all waiting for a miracle. Seeing the situation, Fugaku had chosen Sasuke as the next lord after him. It sounded good, but Sasuke had gained that title at the cost of his brother's health, and nothing could make him more upset than that. Being the man that he was, Itachi had convinced Sasuke that it was going to be fine, and no matter what, he supported Sasuke and loved him dearly. The second thing that changed his whole life and fate was a mistake Sasuke had done. He was only 15, so young, so inexperienced and curious. The girl was willing, so wanting, so Sasuke had wanted to see for himself, to become an adult like his brother and cousins. The next day, the girl's father had nearly broke down their door, demanding Sasuke to take responsibility. No man could ruin a girl's virginity and get away with it. Fugaku had been livid. He had wanted to kill Sasuke for his mistake, but it was Mikoto who had stopped him. So, Sasuke was punished with getting married with the girl he didn't know the name of. It wasn't just about the girl, it was about the pride of the Uchiha, and no Uchiha could do such a low thing as letting a girl get dishonored. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad. In the end, Sasuke needed to get married to create heirs for their clan. The girl was nameless, a commoner, but Sasuke thought things could maybe work between them. She was obviously in love with him and ready to do anything he asked of her. But as years passed, Sasuke realized that her love was more like an obsession. It was like Sasuke was her prize that she worked so hard to get, and no matter what, she wouldn't let go of him. Sasuke could have overlooked that, if only she could give him a child. After 2 years of their marriage, everybody started waiting children from them, and no matter what, they couldn't have it. Seeing the situation, Mikoto had tried to help them. She had informed the medics of their clan, and both Sasuke and Sakura were examined secretly. The results were both hopeful and disappointing. It seemed that there was no problem with either of them. And as years passed, Sasuke finally deemed that the gods simply didn't wish him to have a child. Maybe he could have accepted it, but the whole village's eyes were on him, waiting to hear that the Uchihas were finally getting an heir. But it wasn't coming, and Sasuke had started to be the mocking subject of the conversations. If you didn't have a child, it meant you weren't a family and you were cursed to live a lowly life to the end of time. Sasuke let out a sigh as he stopped in front of a door. Taking a deep, calming breath, he knocked on the door. "Come in," came the muffled response. Sasuke walked inside after hearing the strong voice. The room was simple. There were big windows at every available wall, taking the sunlight in as much as possible. There was a big bed in the middle of the room, where Itachi rested. "Sasuke, welcome," Shisui smiled. He was sitting on the bed next to Itachi and helping Itachi to take his medicine. Sasuke nodded at his cousin and his brother's husband and walked to the bed. "Itachi." He looked so thin and tired. But despite his appearance, he smiled at his brother. "Sasuke, how are you?" "I'm fine." Sasuke sat down at the other side of the bed and held Itachi's hand. "How about you?" "I feel better today," Itachi smiled. Narrowing his eyes, Sasuke looked at his brother-in-law. "Shisui?" Shisui chuckled. "Yeah, he's telling you the truth. We even took a walk in the gardens." "I'm glad." Leaning over, Sasuke brushed back Itachi's long hair. "How about you?" Itachi questioned. Sasuke let out a shaky breath. "She was lying as I suspected. She's not pregnant." Itachi shook his head. "It's no good." Sasuke only nodded. "I'm sorry, Sasuke." Shisui patted Sasuke's back. Sasuke nodded again. "Father will hold a meeting in a few. I don't know what he's going to say. Maybe he'll disown me?" "Don't talk nonsense." Itachi squeezed Sasuke's hand. "He's our lord, true. But at the same time, he's our father and he wants the best for us." Sasuke nodded, but he wasn't sure about Itachi's words. True, Fugaku was their father, but clan came before anything. Sasuke, Itachi, even Fugaku were nothing but mere tools for the sake of the Uchiha. They all looked back as they heard a knock on the door and a small maid appeared at the doorway. "My lords," she bowed down. "Sasuke-sama, Fugaku Dono requests your presence at the big hall. He asks if Itachi-sama and Shisui-sama would like to attend?" Shisui gazed at his spouse and after getting a nod, he stood up. "We will be there." "Yes," the maid bowed again. "I'll inform Haruno-san now." Sasuke raised an eyebrow. "She's invited, too?" "Yes, my lord," she nodded. "All right, you may go now." Sasuke stood up and turned to his brothers. I'll see you at the hall. Itachi nodded and left the bed with Shisui's help. Sasuke left silently for them to get ready and walked down the corridor. When he entered the saloon, he found his father and mother sitting side by side. Sitting beside them were 3 elders of their clan. My lady, my lords, Sasuke bowed down deeply. Sasuke, Fugaku acknowledged his son's presence. Come, my son, sit with us. Sasuke walked up to his father's side and sat down in front of an elder. How are you? Mikoto smiled at her youngest son. Sasuke bowed his head. Thank you, mother, I'm fine. The door opened once again and Obito, his father's cousin, and Kakashi, a half Uchiha with exceptional talent, joined them. There was some small talk before the door opened again. Sakura walked to Sasuke's side and sat down beside him after bowing down to the clan members. How are you, Sakura? Mikoto smiled at the nervous-looking young woman. I'm fine, mother, Sakura smiled back tightly. She wanted to ask the reason of this meeting, but decided not to. It wasn't her place to question the elders. How about you? Good, Mikoto smiled again. I'm glad that spring has come finally. I'll start planting flowers, you should help me, too. Sakura smiled back. Of course, mother. They got silent as the door opened once again. Itachi walked inside with his husband's help. Mikoto stood up immediately and helped her son to sit down across from them. How do you feel? She asked as she cupped Itachi's cheeks. Itachi smiled softly. I feel better today. Mikoto smiled happily. I'm glad, she kissed Itachi's forehead. You're taking your medicine, right? Yes, mother, Itachi nodded. Shisui's always on time with them. Mikoto smiled at her son-in-law. I know that I can trust him. Shisui bowed slightly. Yes, my lady. Mikoto smiled and went back to her husband's side. I've summoned you all here for an important matter, Fugaku started talking after a while. I've discussed it with our elders and got their approvals as well. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Whatever this matter was, it had to be something very important. As we all know, we've been waiting for an heir to our clan, Fugaku said, looking at Sakura from the corners of his eyes. Sakura bit her lips and looked down. It's been 10 years now that our house is joyless, Fugaku kept on. It's unacceptable for us. Uchiha line must live on with the blood of its lord. Elders nodded without a word. So, Fugaku gazed at everyone in the room one by one. I've decided to take another bride for Sasuke. An absolute silence took over the room. Sakura gasped loudly and turned to Fugaku. The lord silenced her coming protest with a silent look. Sasuke will have a wife who will give him sons. Mother, Sakura looked at Mikoto with teary eyes. Please say something. Mikoto shook her head. My lord is right, and it's my son Sasuke's right to take other spouses if he's not satisfied with you. But, you're a woman, too, Sakura pleaded. You should understand me. Mikoto arched an eyebrow. I've given 2 sons to my lord. Fugaku nodded silently. Besides, it's not your place to question Fugaku-sama's will and our elders' decision, Mikoto said coldly. You had only one thing to do. But you failed. You are in no position to make demands now. My lady's right, Fugaku nodded. Sasuke has been put down way too much. But, people will see who the Uchihas are once again. Itachi and Shisui looked at each other. What was Fugaku planning? I will take an Uzumaki bride for my son, Fugaku said finally. Sasuke's eyes widened. It wasn't uncommon for lords to take more than one spouse, but an Uzumaki bride. A slow smirk covered Sasuke's face. Uzumaki clan live in the Whirlpool country only amongst their kinsmen. They are famous for their strength, life force, unique abilities and fertility. Even the male members of their clan were blessed with the ability of bearing children. Uzumakas were the ultimate sign of peace and abundance. The only Konoha citizen who took an Uzumaki bride was the first Hokage himself, and the strength of his line was legendary even to this day. I've already talked to the lady and the lord of the Uzumaki, Fugaku explained. And they are happy to have a union between our noble clans. We think that this marriage will be perfect to strengthen our bonds, and a child of an Uzumaki and an Uchiha will be legendary. The elders nodded, obviously pleased. Sasuke, my son, Fugaku turned to his youngest son. Do tell me your opinion. Sakura watched her husband closely, knowing that her future was between his lips. Whatever my lord decides is our law, Sasuke bowed down. Fugaku nodded and waved his hand, demanding a straight answer. Sasuke looked up to his father. I would like to have an Uzumaki bride. Someone who is my equal and fitting to our clan. Sakura barely held back a sob. Fugaku gave a pleased nod. An equal spouse you will have. The lord and the lady are content with giving their only son to you as a bride. Sasuke smirked. He was finally going to have a spouse that deserved to be an Uchiha bride. Your father and I will soon leave for Whirlpool Country to bring Naruto here, Mikoto said with a smile. Naruto? Sasuke blinked. Yes, Mikoto smiled, knowing that her son was pleased. That's his name. He's 17 years old. He's young, Sasuke breathed. Even before seeing his bride, Sasuke wanted to learn everything about him. Yes, he is, Mikoto nodded. But he's a future lord to his people. He knows his duties perfectly. Sasuke nodded, content with the knowledge he got. Sakura, Fugaku started. Wiping her silent tears quickly, she looked up to Fugaku. Yes, father? As Sasuke's first and former wife, I expect you to act accordingly, Fugaku said strictly. You'll keep living within the Uchiha compound and we'll keep your room. What of Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked meekly. Fugaku frowned. Sasuke will move to a new quarter to share with his bride. Sasuke smirked. It was even better than he could ask for. You'll show respect to the new bride and will help him in any way you can, Fugaku said. Understood? Sakura swallowed her scream and nodded. Yes, father. Did you see him? Sasuke asked his mother. Mikoto smiled, seeing how excited her son was. It had been years since the last time Mikoto saw her youngest like this and it made her so happy. No. It's said that people are forbidden from looking at him directly and his husband will make the decision of showing his face to the world or not. Sasuke's heart skipped a beat. He was going to be the first one to enjoy his bride's face. Such pureness. Sasuke couldn't wait to see his bride. What makes you think that this new bride will be able to give you a child? Sakura challenged boldly. For all we know, Sasuke might be incapable or the faulty one. The air in the room got chilly. Nobody dared to make a noise. No person insulted the Uchiha like this and got away with it. It was unacceptable. Sasuke turned to Sakura with hateful eyes, ready to beat her up and then kill her. Sasuke, Fugaku called out. Calm down and return to your place. Sasuke was torn between teaching the woman her place and obeying his lord. In the end, he let out a sigh and took his place beside his father again. Have you seen a childless Uchiha before? Fugaku asked with a raised eyebrow. And no, Sakura shook her head, her hands shaking. Then you must know that Uchihas always have strong sons and courageous daughters, Fugaku kept on calmly. Sakura nodded hesitantly, not knowing where Fugaku was trying to get. My son Sasuke will taste the joy of fatherhood, Fugaku smiled softly. It's simple. My son's son refuses to come to world through a commoner's blood. It doesn't make sense, Sakura hissed. But it does, Fugaku smirked. My son's noble bride will give birth to healthy children. Sakura wanted to scream. The moment she landed her eyes on Sasuke, she had fallen in love. She had seen him on street one day, walking lazily. After that, she had followed after him anywhere she could. But it was so hard. It was unheard of nobles getting together with commoners like her. But she had waited and hoped, and one day, the gods smiled down upon her. There was a yearly spring festival in the village and traditionally, the clan leaders joined them with their families. Sasuke had also been there, socializing with his friends from other clans. It had been easy to approach and talk to him. He seemed to be looking for something, and the moment Sakura realized what it was, she was happy to give herself to Sasuke. They had done it in the woods where nobody could see them, and the moment Sakura woke up, she realized that she was only a one-time experiment. But Sasuke had made a mistake. He had forgotten that he was from a noble clan and clans lived with their morals and laws. Had anybody in the village heard an Uchiha sleeping with a virgin and then leaving her, Uchihas would get dishonored in the eyes of every single citizen. Learning that his daughter slept with an Uchiha, Sakura's father had taken immediate action. He was pleased with his daughter. In the end, a commoner girl was nothing more than a bed warmer and a child maker. If Sakura could enter the Uchiha, all of their lives would be saved. For 10 years, Sakura was the queen of this glorious clan. Although Uchihas didn't give her their name and commune, she was still the wife of the future lord, and it was enough for her. She was the first commoner to get married to a noble, and she didn't want to let it go. It's my fault, Fugaku sighed deeply. I should have saved my son's honor in a different way. I should have paid for your silence. Sakura frowned. Your money wouldn't be able to buy me. Fugaku raised an eyebrow. Then is it okay to cut the money you're sending to your father every month secretly? Sakura's eyes widened. How could he? Mikoto shook her head. Do you think anything happens in this clan without my lord's knowledge? Blushing, Sakura looked down. Fugaku gave a nod and stood up. We'll be starting preparations for Naruto right away. Everybody bowed down, showing their consent. Sasuke, my son, Fugaku gestured for Sasuke to stand up. Sasuke got to his feet immediately and faced his sire. Yes, my lord? Congratulations, Fugaku clasped Sasuke's shoulders and squeezed them encouragingly. Your bride is so modest. He wants to have a small ceremony within our clan with his families only. After Sakura's huge wedding in front of the whole village, Naruto was like a fresh breath. Thank you so much, father, Sasuke bowed slightly. I will accompany you to Whirlpool. No, Fugaku shook his head as he patted Sasuke's back. It wouldn't be proper. Your mother and I will ask his parents' consent and then bring him and his properties along with us. Yes, father, Sasuke bowed down and didn't straighten till all of the elders left the room. Congratulations, Sasuke, Shisui smiled as his cousin walked to them. Thanks, Sasuke smirked. You seem awfully pleased, Itachi smiled as he stood up with Shisui's help. I guess I am, Sasuke smiled back. I'm going to have an Uzumaki bride. Itachi rolled his eyes. You're like a kid waiting for candy. Shisui started laughing and Sasuke joined him soon after. Itachi smiled softly. It was always good to see his brother happy like this. As an Uchiha, Sasuke was expected to marry another Uchiha or a noble at his level. But fate hadn't been kind to him. So many days Itachi wished that Sasuke could find happiness like him. It wasn't common for Uchihas to marry with the same gender, for they couldn't produce children. But, Itachi and Shisui were special. They were the pride of the Uchiha and they loved each other enough to defy the elders and the laws. But it hadn't been hard for them to get married. Mikoto and Fugaku had supported their decision and that's what mattered in the end. And now, all Itachi wanted was to see his brother happy. He was ill, true. But there wasn't anything to do, so Itachi tried to live his life as it is. Let's get going, Shisui said. Nodding, Itachi smiled at his brother once again before leaving the room with his husband. Sasuke looked after his brothers and then turned to his wife. She was still sitting on the floor, weeping silently. Why are you crying for? Sasuke asked impassively. Why? Sakura shouted. You're getting married. What is it to you? Sasuke asked as he folded his arms over his chest. I'm the one who is getting married. I'm your wife, Sakura cried as she jumped to her feet. Scoffing, Sasuke approached his wife quickly and grabbed her elbow. Do not take that tone with me, he hissed. You are no one but a woman, got it? I could kill you right here and nobody would question me. Sakura struggled to break free as she shivered in fear. She knew that Sasuke was telling the truth. She knew that the Uchiha clan had its darkness and nobody would sell out their future lord. Sakura would get lost if they so wished for it and nobody would be able to find her. Why you are breaking my heart, Sakura said softly. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. I'm saying this once, so listen closely, I'm your husband no more. You are my wife no more. Sakura sobbed quietly. You are a property of Uchiha, Sasuke said. Even if you don't carry our name, you will behave according to our laws. Understood? Sakura nodded slowly. Good, Sasuke shoved Sakura back. If my bride feels uncomfortable because of you, I'll personally ask you the reason. Yes, Sakura bowed her head. Sasuke turned back and left the room without sparing a glance at her. Sakura looked after her husband for a while, hoping that he would turn back and apologize to her. Maybe say he loved her? She waited and waited. But nobody came back for her. Sasuke, stop it, Shisui said with a smirk. His cousin and the notables of their clan were waiting in a line. Sasuke was standing a few steps ahead of them, almost jumping in his excitement. It had been more than a week now that Fugaku and Mikoto left and they had sent a messenger bird 3 days ago, informing of their arrival date. The whole Uchiha state was on alarm since that day. Everywhere was getting cleaned and decorated with colors that reflected the coming spring and the wedding ceremony. A feast was ready for the Uzumaki family's honor. Sasuke let out a sigh as he stilled. He couldn't wait to see his bride. The future mother of his sons. 3 carriages entered the compound and everybody straightened. The first one, which carried the Uchiha Kamon, stopped and the door opened. Fugaku was the first to step out and help Mikoto to leave the carriage. Everybody bowed down as another man left the carriage. He was tall and young looking, his blonde hair taking attention easily within the blacks of the Uchiha. He helped a fiery red-haired woman to leave the carriage next. She was wearing a dark red kimono. It was hard to tell where her hair ended, and where the material of the kimono started. Sasuke, Fugaku smiled at his son. Meet with your mother and father. Sasuke bowed down immediately. Welcome to Konoha and the Uchiha, Lord and Lady Uzumaki. Sasuke blinked as he felt a pat on his shoulder. He looked up to see the blonde lord smiling at him gently while the lady shook a finger at him. No need for such formalities, Minato said with his smiling voice. We are a family now. Yes, yes, Kushina patted Sasuke's back with a hand hardly, all the while smiling widely. You are taking our little sunshine. He's going to be the bond that ties us. You love him and we love you, Kushina cracked her knuckles, making Sasuke flinch. You upset him and we upset you. Minato started laughing, but it was clear that he was embarrassed with his wife's antics. Sasuke blinked a few times as a small smile found its way to his face. These people. They were so different from them. They just looked so content and happy. They were warming Sasuke's heart even at the first sight. Yes. Mother, Sasuke smiled softly. I'll treasure your son. Aw, Kushina hugged Sasuke suddenly. Sasuke's eyes widened. He wasn't sure what to do for a moment, but then he wrapped his arms around her loosely, returning her bone-crashing hug. Naruto. The hug was gone as quick as it had come. It seemed that she had a short attention span. Come and meet your intended. Sasuke looked up as he realized a fifth person leaving the carriage. His bride. He was a head shorter than Sasuke. He was wearing a thin, white cloak that reached his feet. The skirts of the cloak had red flames while its back carried the proud Uzumaki Kamon. He was wearing tight-fitting black shorts while fishnet tights reached to his knees. He was wearing knee-high boots while a pouch was wrapped around his lithe thigh tightly, showing off his ninja side. His belly was open and around his belly button, there was a seal. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Was that? Our son is the host of the Nine Tails, Kushina said proudly. The Uzumaki clan is famous with their seals. They could seal anything within their sight and it was still a legend how they captured the mighty Kyuubi. Sasuke held his breath as his bride stopped in front of him. His face was covered by the hood of the cloak. Sasuke tilted his head to the side, wanting to see his Naruto finally. As if hearing his thoughts, his bride looked up. In the shades, two eyes that were bluer than the sky itself greeted him. And Sasuke fell into those depths that would enslave him for the rest of his life so easily just like that. This concludes part 1. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to my channel for more updates. Thank you for your support. 6 Path Weeb.